Influencers. So you've all heard of them, you know what they do, and if you don't, I'll recap for you now. Social media influencers are people with a particularly influential following, i.e. they are people that people listen to. So historically we had guys like David Beckham, big A-lister celebrities and things like that. And since then, they were sponsored by big sporting brands, I mean, Nadal with Nike, whatever it may be. And the reason they're used is people tend to want to buy the things and the services that they use because people follow them, they're influenced by them. Now, social media influencers have gone mad since the creation of Facebook and more so Instagram, and now with the up and coming TikTok. Influencers are a vital strategy in a lot of marketing campaigns. Now, there's a few things that I want to mention about influencers if you're thinking about using them or you're not thinking about using them. It may be something you might want to do after this video. Now, in 2020, the Instagram algorithm had changed quite drastically at the end of 2019 actually. And what happened was engagement per or outreach per post dropped quite significantly. So what I mean by that is if you've got 1,000 followers, when you put a post up based on your past engagement of your past post with Instagram, Instagram would basically show roughly your post about 10% of the following. So if you had 1,000 followers, it'd only show it to 100 people. If it got very good engagement, it would show it to more. But what happened over time is this percentage has shrunk. So if you were to say hire an influencer to promote your brand that has 1 million followers, whereas before it might have showed their post to 200,000 of their followers, it might now only show it to 50,000. Now, in terms of value for money, if you're paying that influencer, the value for money for an influencer has actually gone down. Even though people think that this is now still a great marketing tool, it is if used properly and analysed properly, but you now have to reassess how much you'd be willing to pay for an influencer. There's a few strategies that you can do. First of all, when picking an influencer, I would suggest picking an influencer that represents your brand. I've touched on this earlier in this topic. Branding is huge, and if you're trying to tell to a particular audience, which we're hoping you've defined already. For example, if you especially sell your services to 30 to 50-year-old women, then hiring a 18 to 19-year-old influencer who has a look very dissimilar to what you tend to sell is probably not very good for you unless you're trying to transition into a new market. For the most part, most people are trying to build clients for aesthetic business with people that they already do, they enjoy doing, and they've already got a good portfolio of work with and have validated themselves with that particular service. So if you're looking for influencers and you're scrolling through Instagram, firstly, try and find influencers of a look and brand, a look and feel that could be associated with your brand, or you want to be associated with your brand. Now, when it comes to picking influencers, you've got a couple of options here. You can either pick a large influencer. Typically, most of these have agents, and they're quite often in their bio, so you can reach out to them and strike a deal to use them to come and get your services. Typically, you provide them with a service for free and a payment on top. In exchange, that you would come up with a certain amount of content that they would put on their Instagram that you can use on your Instagram, website, and YouTube, etc., and would hopefully bring awareness and hopefully bring some clients. This is great, and the costing would depend entirely on their reach and engagement. So have a look at their profile, see how many people are commenting on their images, see how much engagement they're getting. If they've promoted other brands, how do you think that went? Try and have a little look. And also, how often are they promoting other brands? If they're the kind of influencer that's absolutely smashing advertising left, right, and center, more likely than not, they're not getting many sales for those brands because everyone sees through the facade of the fact that they're just trying to make as much money as humanly possible. So in fact, I can't tell you how much to pay for an influencer, but these factors would definitely be something you should be looking for when trying to pick one. A second strategy is picking lots of micro-influencers as opposed to paying a lot of money for one big influencer. Now, rather than go for someone with 500,000 followers with a big engagement and a big reach, it may be that you go for 10 to 20 influencers that have maybe 10 to 20,000 followers. Now, the same strategy applies to these. You can have a look at their accounts, what kind of engagement they're getting, see who's commenting, how often are they promoting other brands, what kind of things are they promoting. I mean, just because they look the part, if if they are promoting something that would go against your brand as an aesthetic company, it may be worth leaving them alone. But you could outreach to maybe 10 to 20 influencers of a more micro nature that have less of a following, but you may find you get better value for money. You may end up getting twice the reach and more influence because they're more authentic, the followers they've built up are more real, and that could work really well as a business strategy. Now, for example, we used Rogan O'Connor, who is from X on the Beach for L1P. We reached out to him and we actually made the most that we could from his visit to L1P. We had our videographer meet Rogan on the day. We did tons of filming, so we made it worth our while. For the amount of money we shelled out for having Rogan down, we made sure that we agreed on how many posts he was going to do, what he was going to do, when he was going to do it, and we also made sure that we got tons of our own footage for our own social media, for the website, for the YouTube channel, for the Instagram account. We had stories, pictures, videos, IGTVs, longer YouTube clips, and we really made use of that time. So if you do use influencers, really make sure you get the most value you can for your money. Now, if you have any questions about influencers, because I know it's a particularly difficult topic and the market and industry is always changing, do drop us a message and we'll try and get back to you and kind of give you some guidance and maybe things to look for. And even if you have someone you're thinking about using, we don't mind having a little look and seeing if we think they're good. Because we know that Instagram can be a bit cheeky sometimes. Just because someone's got a lot of following and they've got a high amount of likes doesn't necessarily mean they're getting any influence. Obviously, it's difficult to know exactly how, you will never know exactly how well an influencer would do for you, but it's definitely something. If you've got some extra money lying around, or you know somebody, or you can offer someone a service that has particularly good reach, it can do wonders for exposure for your brand, and also maybe even drive some sales and some inquiries in. So definitely don't write it off, and it's definitely something you should look at. Like I say, it is becoming less effective as a tool because of the way the algorithm is changing, but it's still something that you could probably still get some good value for money for. So definitely think about it and implement this.